Dead America. Tales of the First Month. The Posse. By Derek Slayton. Chapter 1. Lexington, Kentucky. The morning of day 0. Sam sat in his oversized recliner, staring off into the distance, his mind reeling from the events of the last 12 hours. His wife of 23 years lay in the bedroom down the hall, fighting against one of the worst illnesses she had ever faced. For most people, a cold or the flu wasn't a big deal. They would feel terrible for a week, then shake it off and recover the next. But his wife was different. A cancer diagnosis 6 months ago had devastated her immune system, making even a common illness dangerously serious. Despite knowing she was a fighter, Sam was so worried that he hadn't slept the night before. "Jesus, Sam, what are you doing up at this hour?" Cooper's voice broke the silence. Sam didn't react as his younger brother emerged from the guest bedroom down the hall, which he had called home for the last month. After the cancer diagnosis, the strain on Sam and his business had become overwhelming, and like a good brother, Cooper had come to help, leaving his own family behind on the other side of the state. "I just couldn't sleep, Coop," Sam replied. "I figured tossing and turning would disturb her, so I came out here to sit." Cooper stood at the edge of the living room, looking down at his brother with concern. Sam had always been the tough one, the football player, the boxer, the type of man who wouldn't hesitate to smack someone being rude to a cashier. Cooper had always looked up to his older brother, and seeing him so worn down pained him. "What do you say I get some coffee brewing, and then we find something to watch on TV?" Cooper suggested, trying to lighten the mood. "The chemo appointment is at noon," Sam said, rubbing his tired eyes, "and I need to get over to the shop and take care of a few things before then." He started to rise from the chair, but Cooper quickly crossed the room, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "I'm going to help you, Sam," Cooper said gently, "but if you want me at full strength, we need some coffee first." Sam settled back into his recliner, offering his brother a subtle, grateful nod. Cooper patted Sam's shoulder before heading toward the kitchen. "Find us something good to watch," Cooper called over his shoulder. "Something light, so no news." Sam smirked as he grabbed the remote and started flipping through the channels. After a few moments, he landed on a sports highlight show, a full smile forming on his face. "Is that what I think it is?" Cooper asked, returning with 2 mugs of coffee. "Yep, the morning sports gang. Man, I didn't realize they were still on the air after all these years." "Well, don't get too excited," Sam warned. "Most of the original crew is gone." "Anybody left that I'd know?" "Rob's still there." "My God, he's got to be what, in his 70s? Judging by the looks of him, he's pushing 80. Cooper shook his head with a grin. "If I'm still working at 80, I want you to put a slug in the back of my head." "Bold of you to assume I'd have a working trigger finger at 95, Sam quipped. "Oh, we both know you're going to outlive us all," Cooper laughed. The brothers shared a chuckle as Cooper handed Sam a cup of coffee. They raised their mugs in a quiet toast, but just before they could clink them together, a scream for help echoed from outside. "What in the hell is that?" Sam muttered, both men rushing to the front window. Across the street, they spotted a young man struggling with a middle-aged woman. The man had his hands pressed against her chest, desperately trying to hold her back as she flailed wildly. "You gotta love those domestic disputes," Cooper muttered under his breath. Before Sam could respond, another figure emerged from the side of the house. His clothes were tattered and bloodied, and parts of his flesh appeared to have been torn away. With a low, guttural moan, the newcomer sprinted toward the struggling pair. The young man shoved the woman aside in a panic, attempting to place her between himself and the approaching figure. But the attacker barreled into both of them, knocking them to the ground. The young man's pleas for help grew frantic as the attackers tore into him. "Jesus Christ," Cooper gasped. "Get over there," Sam ordered, already bounding up from his recliner. "I'm right behind you." Cooper nodded, bursting out the front door and sprinting across the street. His footfalls rang out against the pavement, drawing the attention of the male attacker, who immediately abandoned the young man and charged at Cooper. "Get the hell off him, now." Cooper shouted. "Get them off of me." The young man screamed, his voice raw with terror. The creature closed the distance faster than Cooper expected, its vacant eyes and relentless speed catching him off guard. "Oh shit," Cooper muttered, freezing in place as the thing lunged at him. He flung his arms up in defense, managing to knock the creature off balance and send it stumbling past him. But it quickly regained its footing, turning to charge again. This time, Cooper was ready. With a swift motion, he spun the creature around and locked his arm around its neck in a headlock. "Settle down now, buddy," Cooper grunted. "Your day's over." The creature responded with nothing more than a low moan, its arms flailing uselessly at Cooper's body. Despite the pressure he applied, the thing showed no signs of weakening. "Why aren't you passing out?" Cooper wondered aloud, struggling to comprehend the situation. "Please, for the love of God, help me," the young man cried from the ground, still pinned by the female attacker, her jaws snapping dangerously close to his throat. "Damn it," Cooper cursed, his mind racing for a solution. Before he could act, the blast of a shotgun ripped through the air. Cooper flinched at the sound, glancing back toward the street. Sam stood a few yards away, his shotgun held low but ready. "I'm going to need everybody to calm down," Sam drawled. "It's too damn early in the morning for all this nonsense." The female attacker locked eyes on Sam, letting out a blood-curdling moan as she pushed off the young man and sprinted toward him. She moved with inhuman speed, ignoring everyone else as she rushed straight for Sam. "Shoot her. Shoot her," the young man screamed. Sam raised his shotgun, firing a warning shot over her head. It did nothing to slow her down. With a quick motion, he chambered another round, took aim at her chest, and pulled the trigger. The slug slammed into her, sending her sprawling to the ground. But to Sam's horror, she scrambled back to her feet, charging again. "What in the hell?" Sam whispered, barely able to react in time to block her with the shotgun. Cooper, still wrestling with the male attacker, shouted, "How in the hell is she still standing, Sam?" "I don't know," Sam replied, eyes locked on the gaping wound in her chest. "Something's not right with this woman." "Shoot her in the head," the young man called out desperately. Sam glanced toward his brother, both of them silently coming to the same grim conclusion. "You boys remember, this was self-defense," Sam said. With a forceful shove, Sam knocked the woman to the ground and wasted no time raising his shotgun and firing a round into her head. The blast vaporized the top of her skull in a gruesome spray of blood and bone. Sam chambered another round, his finger hovering over the trigger, ready for any movement. After a tense moment, he was satisfied the threat was over. As Sam reloaded, the young man approached them, his voice shaking. "Thank you so much. I thought she was going to kill me." "I just took a woman's head off for you, son," Sam said coldly. "So you better start talking." "I'm Paul," the young man stammered. "My friend Eddie's mom lives here. She's been sick for a few days, so we've been helping out." "That wasn't his mother you were fighting with, was it?" Sam asked. "No, sir. I don't know who she was. We heard banging on the side of the house, and when I went to check, she just came at me like she wanted to tear me apart." "Do you know who this guy is?" Cooper asked, still struggling with the male attacker. Paul shook his head. "I've never seen him before." For a moment, the only sound was the creature's moaning. The three men stood in stunned silence, staring at the battered body struggling against Cooper's grip. "My God," Paul breathed. "Are those bite marks?" "They appear to be," Sam answered grimly. "Hey, Paul," Cooper said, "I didn't get a great look when she was on top of you, but it sure as hell seemed like she was trying to bite you." "Yeah, she was," Paul confirmed. "It took everything I had to keep her teeth away from my neck." "Damn," Cooper muttered. "That one tried to bite you. This one's all bit up, and I'd bet good money that if I got close enough, he'd take a chunk out of me too." "So what do we do?" Paul asked, panic rising in his voice. Cooper's face tightened. "I don't know, but I'm sure as hell not letting him go." Sam nodded, coming to a decision he didn't like but knew had to be made. "Get him on the ground," Sam ordered, his voice low but firm. What? Why? Paul asked, glancing nervously at the still struggling creature in Cooper's grip. I think I know what my brother's thinking, Cooper said, tightening his hold. Give me a hand, kid. Paul hesitated for a second before stepping in to help. Together, they wrestled the creature to the ground. With a quick leg sweep, Cooper had it face down in the grass, still writhing and moaning, its movements as erratic as ever. The thing's head jerked and twisted, trying to turn toward them, but Cooper kept it pinned. Sam stepped forward, his shotgun now loaded and ready. He pressed the barrel against the creature's ankle, glancing up at Paul, who suddenly realized what was about to happen. What in the hell are you doing? Paul asked, his voice rising in panic. Before anyone could answer, Sam pulled the trigger. The slug tore through the creature's ankle, severing the foot entirely in a spray of blood and bone. Paul flinched but held onto the creature, his grip tightening despite the horror playing out in front of him. The creature didn't scream. It didn't flinch. It didn't react at all to losing a foot. What in the hell is going on? Paul gasped, his voice trembling as he stared down at the mutilated creature. Sam's expression remained grim as he reloaded the shotgun. I don't know, Paul. The only thing I do know is that a shot to the head puts them down for good, and right now that's all that matters. He racked the shotgun and placed the barrel at the back of the creature's skull. Cooper and Paul turned their heads, unwilling to watch the final moment. Sam didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger, and the shotgun roared again, putting an end to whatever unholy force had kept the creature moving. Chapter 2. The three men stood in the eerily silent yard, staring down at the headless corpse just beneath their feet. All three were in shock, yet none of them felt like they were in the wrong. Sam, are you okay? Cooper asked. Sam didn't respond verbally. Instead, he chambered another round and gave his brother a determined look. Before Cooper could say anything else, the sound of screaming from the house caught their attention. Oh my God, Eddie, Paul yelled, turning abruptly and sprinting towards the house, with Cooper and Sam close behind. The screaming inside intensified as they neared the door. By the time they crossed the threshold, it sounded as though Eddie was having a full-blown panic attack. Paul stopped at the top of the hallway, frozen in fear as he looked down towards the master bedroom. Cooper reached him first, pushing the younger man aside to clear the way. Jesus, Cooper muttered. At the end of the hallway, Eddie was struggling to pull the door closed. Both of his hands were wrapped around the doorknob, his leg pressed firmly against the wall for leverage. Despite his best efforts, the creatures inside the room were preventing the door from closing, their arms reaching through the gap. Help me. My hands are starting to slip, Eddie cried, his voice strained. The zombie arms smacked at his own, the sweat on his palms loosening his grip on the doorknob. Cooper started down the hallway, but Sam stopped him. The kid needs help, Cooper said urgently. I have an idea, Sam responded calmly. I need you in the bathroom there on the right. If I can't take that thing down, you're going to have to trip it up. You got it, Sam, Cooper replied. Cooper ran halfway down the hallway, throwing open the bathroom door and positioning himself just inside. Once in position, Sam called out. All right, Eddie, when I tell you to, you let go of that doorknob and haul ass towards me. But they'll get out, Eddie protested, panic in his voice. That's the plan. We're going to take care of them. I just need you to stay low. Can you do that for me? Yeah, Eddie replied, his voice trembling. Okay, here we go. Eddie steadied himself for a moment, then let out a yell and released the doorknob. He pushed off the door, staying low as he ran down the hallway. He barely made it 2 steps before the bedroom door slammed open behind him. Sam's eyes widened as he spotted 2 creatures emerging from the darkness. The lead ghoul was a young man in bloody scrubs, a large chunk of flesh missing around his neck. A few steps behind him was an elderly woman in a blood-stained nightgown. Firing, Sam yelled. At the warning, Eddie dove forward, staying low as the shotgun slug flew over his head. Sam's aim was spot on, catching the lead creature in the nose and blowing out the back of its head. The ghoul stumbled forward half a step before collapsing hard on the ground, just inches from Eddie's feet. Sam quickly chambered another round and aimed at the elderly woman, but before he could fire, she was tripped up. Cooper had kicked her legs out from under her, sending the elderly woman face first onto the floor. Without hesitation, Cooper emerged from the bathroom and pinned her to the ground, driving his knee into her back. Sam stepped over Eddie and the zombie nurse's corpse, moving methodically toward the last remaining threat. In one fluid motion, he extended his shotgun, placed it on the back of the ghoul's head, and squeezed the trigger. As the house fell silent, the four men stood in the hallway, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. "Eddie, are you okay?" Paul asked, his voice laced with concern. Eddie didn't respond immediately, still in shock from seeing his mother's headless body on the ground. Paul gave him a shake, trying to snap him out of it, but it didn't work. "Eddie, come on, man. We need you back here," Paul urged. "Give the man a minute, Paul. Why don't you go lock up the front door?" Sam suggested. Paul nodded and hurried off to secure the door. Sam stepped over to Eddie, extending a hand to help him up. "It's all right, Eddie. Let's get you sitting someplace comfortable," Sam said softly. Eddie gave a slight nod and accepted the help. Sam and Cooper guided him into the living room, plopping him down on the couch. "Paul, how's it looking outside?" Sam called out. "It's quiet. I don't see any of those people running around," Paul answered from the doorway. "What about the police?" Cooper asked. "I don't see them either," Paul replied. "I mean, why don't you call the police? There are 4 people with shotgun slugs in their heads within 20 yards of us. We're going to need some assistance," Cooper pointed out. "Right. I'm on it," Paul said as he pulled out his phone. Sam crouched down so that he was eye level with Eddie. "Eddie, are you with us, buddy?" Sam asked. It took a moment for Eddie to snap out of his daze. "Yeah, I'm good," he finally replied, though his voice was shaky. "But who in the hell are you guys?" "Well, I'm Sam and this is my brother Cooper. I live right across the street there," Sam explained. Recognition dawned on Eddie's face. "Yeah, Sam, you own that hardware store, right?" "That's right. I've probably helped your mom fix half the stuff in this house over the last few years," Sam replied. "Yeah," Eddie said, nodding. "She talked about you a lot, about how helpful you've been since my dad passed." "He was a good man," Sam said, his voice solemn. "Yes, he was. My mom missed him terribly. I'm glad they're finally together again," Eddie said quietly. "I'm sure they're hugging each other as we speak," Sam said gently. A faint smile tugged at Eddie's lips, but he fought to keep it from turning into tears. Sensing his fragile state, Sam spoke again. "I know it may be painful, Eddie, but we need to know what happened," Sam urged. Eddie's smile faded as he snapped into business mode, trying to focus. "Mom's been sick for a couple of days now with a real nasty flu or something similar. She's been getting up there in age, so we had a home nurse check up on her a couple of times a week," Eddie began. "I'm guessing that's him in the hallway?" Sam asked. "Yep, that's him," Eddie confirmed. "So how did he end up like that?" Cooper asked. Eddie began to zone out, as if reliving something horrific. He quickly shook it off and continued. "Paul and I were in the kitchen cleaning up when we heard banging from outside. I was going to follow him out, but then I heard something unusual coming from my mom's bedroom. When I opened the door, I saw my mom biting the nurse on the neck," Eddie said, his voice quivering. Cooper and Sam exchanged a worried glance, sensing a disturbing pattern. "I yelled out, and my mom jumped up with energy I haven't seen her have in 30 years. I managed to get the door mostly closed. I thought I'd be okay until Paul got back, but then the nurse got up and joined her. I don't know how it happened," Eddie finished, his voice hollow. "It's gotta be the bites. That other guy had them too," Cooper muttered. But what caused his mother to go crazy? Sam wondered aloud. "Maybe it was the sickness," Eddie suggested. Sam's blood ran cold at the thought, knowing his wife was just across the street, battling a similar illness. Cooper noticed immediately and tried to reassure him. "I'm sure she's fine, Sam. Just a side effect from the chemo," Cooper said, But Sam wasn't convinced. He nodded, though, deciding not to argue. Before they could discuss it further, Paul rushed into the living room, holding up his phone. "I can't get through to the police. I've tried a dozen times, but the phone keeps making these weird sounds I've never heard before," Paul said, his voice tight with frustration. "The circuits might be overloaded." "If this is happening all over town, that's a lot of 911 calls," Cooper said grimly. "I think it is happening all over town. I've got my friend Haley on the phone," Paul said, holding up his cell and putting it on speaker. "Haley, I've got the others with me." "Tell them what you told me," Paul instructed. "All hell is breaking loose down here." Haley's voice came through, panicked and terrified. "Where's here?" Sam asked. "At the coffee shop." Haley replied, her words hurried and frantic. Sam looked up at Paul for clarification. "It's a couple miles from here, just up from the convenience store where she works," Paul explained. Sam nodded and turned his attention back to the phone. "Okay, Haley, what's going on?" Sam asked. "People are going crazy. I don't know what the hell is wrong with them. They're just biting other people. There's so much blood, it's just everywhere," Haley said, her voice breaking with fear. Sam and Cooper exchanged a look, realizing that whatever was happening wasn't isolated to their neighborhood. "I've tried calling the police, but nobody's answering. I can't even get it to ring," Haley added, her frustration echoing theirs. "We know, Haley. We're having the same trouble," Paul said sympathetically. "Are you somewhere safe?" Sam asked. "Relatively speaking. I'm with one of the clerks, and we're hiding in the storeroom closet." "But those things are outside," Haley replied, her voice still shaking. "How many are there?" Sam pressed. "More than I want to deal with," Haley muttered. "If we're going to help you, we're going to need something more than smart-ass responses," Sam shot back, his patience thinning. Haley took a moment to calm herself. "I'm sorry. There's at least a dozen, maybe a few more. Some people were going for the front door, but I don't know if they got it shut or not." "Okay, that's good. Now we're going to come and get you, so just sit tight," Sam said, his voice firm but reassuring. "Thank you," Haley whispered, the relief clear in her tone. "I'll call you when we get there," Paul added. "Thank you, Paul," Haley replied softly. "Any time," Paul said before ending the call. He turned to Sam and Cooper. "So how do we do this?" "You tell us where the coffee shop is, and we go get your friend," Sam said matter-of-factly. "We can help. If there's a dozen of those things, you're going to need us," Paul insisted. "We've had to come to your rescue twice today already. I'd rather not make it a third time," Sam said, shaking his head. "We didn't know what we were dealing with," Eddie said, his voice filled with determination. "Now we know. We won't be caught by surprise again." Sam looked over at his brother, who gave him a soft shrug. "If there really are a dozen of those things, we could use the help," Cooper admitted. Sam thought for a moment, then took a no-nonsense tone. "Can either of you boys shoot?" "Yes, sir. We've both been hunting since we were teenagers," Paul answered confidently. "We've been out there every season," Eddie added. "Did you ever bag anything?" Cooper asked, half joking. "I've given my extended family so much venison over the years that they've begged me to take up fishing just so they can have something different," Paul said, a small grin on his face. Cooper chuckled and turned to his brother for the final decision. "Okay," Sam said after a pause. "Let's head over to my house and get geared up. We've got some hunting to do." Chapter 3. The four men stood in Sam's living room, checking over the collection of hunting rifles and shotguns, making sure each one was loaded with ammunition. Every man had a scoped hunting rifle, while Sam and Cooper each carried one of the hunting shotguns. "Are those rifles good for you boys?" Sam asked, glancing up from his own gun. "Yes, sir. These will do just fine," Paul replied, inspecting the weight of his rifle. "All we need is a target in sight, and we'll put its lights out," Eddie added confidently. Sam gave a firm nod. Good. Time's a-wasting, so let's get to the truck. Paul and Eddie grabbed their rifles along with the extra bags of ammunition before heading out the front door toward the large pickup truck in the driveway. Sam and Cooper moved toward the door as well, but Sam hesitated, looking back toward the bedrooms. Part of me wants to stay here with her and make sure she's safe, Sam admitted, his voice low. Cooper looked over at his brother, offering reassurance. She's going to be just fine, Sam. Her bedroom is locked up tight, and this door's not going anywhere. We're not going to be gone that long. Sam sighed, the weight of his worry evident. I know, Cooper cut him off. Sam, if she was fine and healthy, what would she say to you? Sam didn't hesitate. She'd tell me to go get that girl out from trouble. Exactly, Cooper agreed. Now what do you think she would do if you stayed home and sat by her side when she's locked up tight? Sam couldn't help but chuckle at the thought. She would probably beat me beyond all recognition. Cooper grinned, shaking his head. I don't think you're giving her enough credit, Sam. You wouldn't have a body left to be recognized. With a small laugh, Sam knew Cooper was right. Cooper gave him a pat on the back and gently pushed him out the door, securing it behind them. So where do you want me? Cooper asked once they were outside. Stay in the back with one of them. I'll have the other riding shotgun, Sam instructed as he headed for the driver's seat. Nothing wrong with a little experience backing up the youngsters, Cooper quipped. Just watch yourself out there, Sam warned, his tone serious. Cooper nodded, climbing into the back of the truck while Sam settled into the driver's seat. As Sam got in, he barked out a directive. Paul, you're riding shotgun, and you're going to be the navigator. Cooper called out from the back, Eddie, you're in back with me. Sam glanced at the others, his voice firm. If you see trouble, call it out. Everyone nodded and took their places. Sam started up the older pickup truck, letting it idle for a moment before opening the back window and calling out to the others. Hang on, boys, here we go. With that, Sam peeled out of the driveway, making a hard left turn toward the business district. They had barely gone 3 blocks when Cooper smacked the roof of the truck from the back. Sam's eyes darted around. What is it? Stop. Stop. Cooper shouted. Sam slammed on the brakes, scanning the road for danger but seeing nothing ahead. What's the problem? Back it up to the intersection, Cooper ordered. Without hesitation, Sam shifted into reverse, the tires squealing as he quickly backed up. He stopped in the middle of the intersection and immediately saw what had caught Cooper's attention. At the house on the corner, 2 creatures were smacking against the driver's side window of a car in the driveway. Cooper looked toward Eddie. Can you make that shot? I'll take the one on the right, Eddie replied, nodding confidently. You call it, Cooper said, stepping back to let Eddie take aim. Eddie steadied himself, along with Cooper. They both took careful aim at the ghouls, which were no more than 30 yards away. After a tense moment, Eddie spoke. Pull it. Both men fired within a split second of each other. The bullets ripped through the skulls of their targets, blowing out the back of their heads and dropping them to the ground. A moment later, a middle-aged woman rushed out of the car and towards the house, darting through the front door. She didn't so much as glance at her rescuers before slamming the door shut behind her. We're good, Sam, let's keep moving, Cooper said, signaling for him to drive on. Sam hit the gas, and the truck lurched forward, jostling everyone around as they resumed their journey. The next few blocks were relatively uneventful, though they spotted the occasional creature wandering the yards. Despite his instincts to stop and take them out, Sam kept driving, knowing time was running short. Several minutes passed in silence before Paul spoke up, urgency in his voice. Stop, stop. Sam slammed on the brakes, the sudden jolt nearly sending the 2 men in the back flying. Once they regained their balance, they scanned the area for threats. What is it, Paul? Sam asked, irritation creeping into his tone. We're going to be making the left just up ahead there, Paul replied. Sam shot him an exasperated look. You could have just told me that. You didn't have to yell out and scare the shit out of me. Paul looked sheepish. I'm sorry, it's just, we need to be prepared for what may be around that corner. Yeah, a bunch of those things in the coffee shop, Sam guessed. Paul shook his head. It's not just the coffee shop. There are a ton of businesses down there, the kind that are open during breakfast hours. Sam considered that for a moment before nodding. All right, we'll be safe. But where is the coffee shop? We make the turn up on the next block, and then it's just a couple blocks down on the left, Paul explained. Okay, once we have it in sight, I want you to call Haley and... Sam was cut off by the sudden sound of rifle fire from above. 2 quick shots rang out, not in sync, like they hadn't been planned. Looking ahead, Sam spotted 2 corpses lying in the middle of the road and a jogger sitting on the ground nearby. Get in the back, Sam said suddenly. Paul blinked, confused. What? Just do it. I want another gun up top, Sam insisted. Paul nodded, quickly climbing into the back as instructed. Cooper smacked the roof again, signaling Sam to move forward. Sam pulled up beside the jogger, stopping just a few yards away. Cooper took the lead, the others aiming their guns at the bloodied man on the street. Don't shoot. I'm alive. I'm not one of those things. Don't shoot. The jogger pleaded, his voice shaky. The 3 men kept their weapons trained on him, scrutinizing every move. It's not safe out here. You may want to get inside, Cooper said, his tone calm but firm. Yes, sir. I was just out for a jog when all this started up. I'm heading home right now, the jogger stammered. You better be if you know what's good for you, Cooper warned before smacking the roof of the truck again. Let's head down toward the coffee shop. There's probably a mess of those things down there, Cooper said. Without a word, Sam hit the gas, making the turn toward the coffee shop and leaving the jogger behind. I want you boys to hold your fire until I give the signal. We only have one chance at this, and I don't want to draw attention to ourselves until we absolutely have to, Cooper instructed. We'll follow your lead, Eddie responded, his voice steady despite the tension. Good. Now get that girl on the phone, Cooper said, glancing at Paul. Paul nodded, pulling out his phone. Cooper knelt down by the window to speak to Sam. Pull up short of the coffee shop. We're calling the girl now. You got it, Sam replied, keeping his eyes on the road. Cooper stood back up as Sam pulled the truck to a stop off to the side of the road. Paul held the phone close to his ear, his hand shaking slightly. Come on, answer. Answer, he muttered under his breath. After a tense moment, Haley's voice came through, soft and cautious. Where are you? We're just around the corner. Why are you talking so softly? Paul asked. I can hear those people just outside the door, Haley whispered. Okay, we're going to come get you, Paul said, trying to keep his voice steady. Cooper motioned for Paul to hand him the phone. Hang on, I'm handing you over to Cooper, Paul said before passing it over. Cooper wasted no time. Haley, can you get out of the closet? Maybe. As soon as we open the door, they're going to hear it, Haley replied, her voice trembling slightly. Don't worry, they're going to be focused on us. Now, we're going to be at the edge of the parking lot making a hell of a racket. When you hear us open fire, give it 10 seconds, then get the hell out of there, Cooper instructed, his voice firm and steady. And do what? Haley asked, the fear creeping into her voice. Get away from those people and wait for us to come get you. We're only going to have a couple of seconds before they're on us, so you're going to have to jump into the back of the truck, Cooper explained. Okay, we can do that. We'll be ready, Haley agreed. We won't be long. Good luck, Cooper said before hanging up and tossing the phone back to Paul. Cooper leaned down to speak through the window again. Okay, the girl's on board with the plan. We have a plan, then? Sam asked, raising an eyebrow. Cooper grinned. Yeah, sorry I didn't run it by you. It just seemed like the only logical play. Gunfight at the coffee shop parking lot, and we pick them up on the other side? Sam guessed with a chuckle. If you weren't my brother, I'd swear you were a mind reader. Cooper laughed, reaching through the window to give Sam a playful smack on the shoulder. Sam smirked. It's a shame you didn't think I was a mind reader when I told you about going out with that waitress. I could have saved you from years of alimony. Are you ever going to let me live that down? Cooper groaned. I'm going to keep it up until the world ends, Sam teased. Cooper shook his head, motioning to the destruction that enveloped the street ahead. Several wrecked cars dotted the roadway, zombies clawing at the windows in a desperate attempt to reach the drivers, while other ghouls ran wild through the streets, their guttural moans filling the air. Sam took it all in for a moment before breaking into a laugh. Well, it looks like you're off the hook then, he said with a wry grin. Well, at least one thing's going right today, Cooper responded. Get those boys ready, because this is going to be a battle, Sam said, his tone serious. Cooper nodded, giving his brother another pat on the shoulder before standing back up. He looked over at the two younger men, who were staring ahead, their expressions blank. We're going to be all right. Just keep your heads about you. Pick your targets, take them out, and above all else, stay calm, Cooper advised, his voice steady. Paul and Eddie gave reluctant nods in response. Okay, let's get to it then, Cooper said before smacking the roof of the truck again. Sam hit the gas, and the truck sped toward the coffee shop, the men ready for whatever awaited them on the next block. Chapter 4. Sam kept his foot on the gas pedal, picking up as much speed as he could. He gripped the steering wheel tightly as a couple of rampaging ghouls smacked against the front bumper, drawn to the roar of the engine. He honed in on the parking lot of the coffee shop at the corner of the next block. Several creatures emerged from around the corner, blocking the driveway. Hang on back there, Sam called to his companions in the truck bed. He considered jumping the curb but decided the direct approach was the best course of action. He steered straight into the small mob, slamming into them with the front end of the truck. Zombie bodies flew back into the parking lot, each of them slamming hard onto the ground. Hit them hard, Sam shouted as the truck barreled through. Cooper, Paul, and Eddie aimed their rifles and opened fire on the remaining creatures in the lot. The initial volley of bullets found their targets easily, catching the ghouls unaware. After the first trio fell to the ground, a dozen more zombies in the lot began closing in on the truck. Oh my God. Paul's voice wavered as panic set in. He struggled to aim his rifle, firing off a shot that missed everything. The bullet embedded itself in a parked car behind the target. Quickly chambering another round, he fired again, only to hit the pavement. Calm down, Paul. Hit the ones around the truck, Cooper barked, snapping Paul back into focus. Paul nodded, reloading as fast as he could, his hands trembling. He turned his attention to the growing number of creatures converging around the truck. Raising his rifle, he took aim at the closest zombie, which was struggling to climb onto the vehicle. A quick squeeze of the trigger, and the ghoul's head exploded from the force of the shot. Letting out a scream, Paul fired again, dropping another creature to the ground. But it was immediately replaced by yet another ghoul. Jesus, they just keep coming, Paul shouted, digging into his ammo bag for more rounds. He kept his gaze on the road behind them, where the gunshots had attracted even more attention. A couple dozen ghouls were now sprinting toward the truck. Cooper, we have trouble, Paul warned, his voice rising in alarm. Cooper fired a round into the coffee shop, putting down a zombie that had been blocking the door. Glancing over his shoulder toward the street, he muttered a string of obscenities as he took stock of the situation. The mob was growing, and they were quickly being overwhelmed. Dropping his rifle, Cooper grabbed his shotgun and shoved Paul out of the way, taking a position at the rear of the truck. Clear the way for your friend, Cooper ordered as he raised his shotgun and began firing. His shots weren't aimed at killing. His goal was to slow the advancing ghouls. The slugs ripped into their chests, knocking them down and tripping up the ones behind them. Cooper emptied his weapon within seconds, buying them precious moments before reloading. Sam, we have to move, he shouted. Suddenly, a ghoul reached the tailgate, grabbing at Cooper's leg. The creature latched onto his jeans for a brief moment before Cooper blasted it point blank, obliterating its head. We can't stay here, Cooper yelled over the chaos. He glanced toward the front of the truck and saw Paul and Eddie firing wildly at the ghouls still trapped inside the coffee shop. Their bullets shattered the glass but failed to land a kill shot. Cooper spotted two figures running toward the door through the debris. Breaking from his position, Cooper reclaimed his spot at the front, ripping the rifle from Paul's hands. He took aim at the coffee shop door. "Come on, girl. Get your ass out of there," he muttered as he waited for it to open. Moments later, Haley burst through the door with a coffee shop employee close behind. Haley made it clear of the building, but the employee wasn't as fortunate. Two sets of bloody hands latched onto the panicked man, pulling him back into the store, despite his desperate grip on the door. "Damn it," Cooper cursed, smacking the hood of the truck. Sam slammed on the gas. The sudden jolt forward threw the men in the back off balance. Cooper and Paul steadied themselves, but Eddie stumbled backward, crashing over the tailgate. Eddie. Paul reached out for his friend, but it was too late. Paul watched in horror as Eddie tumbled over the back, landing hard on the asphalt. Before he could raise his gun to defend him, a swarm of ghouls descended on Eddie, engulfing him in a sea of ravenous bodies. Eddie's screams were drowned out by the moaning of the horde. Paul stared in disbelief at his friend's gruesome end. The truck came to an abrupt halt, snapping Paul back to the moment. Cooper reached out and grabbed him, preventing Paul from falling over the side. "Sit down and stay down," Cooper commanded, pushing Paul to the floor of the truck bed. Cooper turned his attention to Haley, who had run to the truck's side, her hand outstretched. Cooper grabbed her, pulling her into the truck bed beside Paul. "Get us out of here," he yelled at Sam. Sam hit the gas again, causing the tires to spin before they found traction. The truck sped out of the parking lot, making a sharp turn away from the mob. Cooper knelt beside the others, his focus on Paul, who was still in shock. "I'm sorry about Eddie, kid," Cooper said softly, giving Paul's shoulder a comforting pat. Paul didn't respond. Before Cooper could say more, the back end of the truck lurched violently to the side. Metal screeched and sparks flew as the truck came to a standstill in the middle of the road. Cooper pulled himself up, momentarily dazed. "Are you two okay?" Haley nodded and checked on Paul, who gave a weak thumbs up. Cooper looked over the side of the truck and saw that the rear axle was nearly torn off. Sighing in defeat, Cooper jumped out and walked toward the car that had hit them. He approached, ready to help the driver, but stopped when he saw that the woman behind the wheel was already dead, one of the infected. She thrashed about, just like the creatures at the coffee shop. Scanning the area, Cooper saw ghouls in the distance, focused intently on them, but still several blocks away. "We have to move," Cooper said, rushing to the driver's side of the truck. He ripped the door open and found Sam in a daze. Unbuckling his brother, Cooper pulled him out of the cab. "Come on, Sam. On your feet," he urged. Yeah, I'm okay," Sam replied, shaking his head clear. "I'm sorry that guy came out of nowhere." "It happens. But we need to get inside. We're exposed out here." "Where can we go?" Sam asked, scanning the street. "The store I work at is on the next block," Haley suggested. "Can we get inside?" Cooper asked. "The owner will open up for us." "If not, I've got a key," Haley replied. "That's good enough for me," Cooper said. Sam reached into the cab, grabbing his rifle and shotgun. He tossed the rifle to Haley. "Do you know how to use that?" "I'm a country girl," Haley said with a sly smile. "Of course I do." "Good. Now where are we headed?" Haley pointed to the corner of the next block, where a small convenience store stood among a row of sealed shops. The group ran as hard as they could, their bodies aching from the wreck. When they were within half a block, a ghoul wandered out of the store. "Damn it," Cooper muttered, raising his rifle. He fired, putting a round through the creature's skull and dropping it. But the shot echoed through the street, and within moments, more zombies poured out of the store. "Shoot! Shoot!" Sam yelled. The group raised their weapons and fired into the growing horde. Their shots were on target, skulls cracking as they thinned the threat. After 30 seconds of intense gunfire, silence fell. Are we sure about this place? Cooper asked. Sam looked over his shoulder and saw the coffee shop mob closing in. It's going to have to be. Everybody inside, he ordered, charging toward the store. He loaded a few more shotgun shells, ready for anything as he rushed through the entrance. Sam swept the aisles quickly, moving to the back and finding the storeroom door wide open. He approached cautiously, shotgun raised. Peeking around the corner, Sam spotted several zombies just yards away. Instead of firing, he grabbed the door and slammed it shut, seconds before the ghouls could reach it. He stood, shotgun at the ready, as the creatures clawed at the door. They weren't getting in, and Sam let out a relieved sigh. He walked back into the store, where the others were busy securing the front door. Sam glanced down the aisles, taking in the bloody mess and the body behind the counter. My God, what happened here? Sam muttered. I don't know, Haley replied, her voice trembling. But it couldn't have been good. Her eyes landed on one of the bodies, and she froze. Tears welled up as she recognized the corpse. Noticing her distress, Sam turned her away from the gruesome sight. Don't worry about that, Haley. Cooper and I will take care of it. Why don't you find us some water? Haley nodded, trying to focus on her task. Sam turned back to the body behind the counter, checking to make sure it was truly dead. How are we looking? Cooper asked, joining him. I think we're alone in here. How's the door? It's locked up tight. The glass has metal bars on it, so even if they break through, they aren't getting in. Well, at least something's going right for us, Sam said, plopping onto a stool behind the register. He glanced out at the street, where dozens of zombies pressed up against the glass. It doesn't look like we're getting home today, does it? Sam said, his voice heavy with worry. Don't worry. She's locked up tight, Cooper reassured him. I know. I just feel like I should be there. I know, Sam. I know. Cooper placed a comforting hand on his brother's shoulder. Sam sat quietly for a moment, staring out at the chaos outside. Then he looked over at Cooper. Hey, can you do me a favor? Of course, Cooper replied. Can you go get us some coffee? We never did finish our cups today. And we've still got a lot to get done, so we need to stay alert. Cooper chuckled, nodding as he walked toward the back to find the coffee pots. Sam turned back to the window, his thoughts drifting to his wife. She was sick and alone at home. In his heart, he knew she likely had whatever was causing this outbreak, but that knowledge did nothing to ease his guilt. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have stayed by your side. I should have stayed. The end.